Hello everyone and welcome to IPR's Game Room. My name is AC and today I'm going to be talking about Questlandia. Questlandia, written by Hannah Schaffer and Evan Rowland, is not a game about a big noble group of adventurers going on this giant quest to save the kingdom. It is instead a game about a disparate group of people all trying to do their best in a kingdom that is collapsing around them. Questlandia is a GM-less game for 3 to 5 players, and this means that as one character and one player have the spotlight and are going on their storyline and quest, everybody else around the table are playing the NPCs and the setting of the game. Players start out by creating their own kingdom, and guys, if you're into tables, I've got some good news. This game has a lot of them. The main game mechanics are 6-sided dice and a deck of playing cards with the jokers taken out. Players are meant to have 12 dice in total, with 6 red and 6 white, though you can use any 2 distinguishing colors. If you can see here on my lovely table setup, I have just 6 red or warm colored dice and 6 blue or cold colored dice. As long as they're distinguishable from each other, you're good. The dice and cards are both used to determine the outcomes of those tables. For the first part, creating your kingdom, you're using 1 die to decide your kingdom's ambition, whether this is expanding trade, just plain conquest, philosophical or religious, things like that. That's sort of your kingdom's goal. Next, you find out your kingdom's troubles by using the deck of playing cards. You draw 6 cards, and depending on the suit of the cards drawn and how many of that suit there are, you decide both what the trouble is and how severe it is. These are things like poverty, sickness, war, civil unrest, anything like that. This is also the system used for character creation. There aren't really character sheets in this game. Instead, you just start out with a die and a playing card. The die determines what type of person your character is, and by this I mean a merchant or a royal, maybe an outcast or a holy person, those sorts of things. The playing card determines the luck that your character starts out with, whether they are wealthy and well-known and safe, or outcast and alone. The rest of the details are decided on by the players, with everything being very collaborative. Remember, there is no GM. Players are encouraged to listen to each other and lift up each other's ideas, but also remember that your ideas are just as valuable as everybody else's at the table. Players, as well as being in charge of their own character, also get ownership of the elements of the story. These are things like the ruling class, or festivals, or an animal that is in the world. When questions get asked about this element, the player who has ownership of it gets to answer that question first. Everybody around the table can give suggestions, but the player who has ownership has final say. Questlandia is a one-shot game. There's meant to be 3 rounds, with everybody around the table getting to have 1 scene in each round, as well as an epilogue. Scenes are created by the active player. They state where they are, what they're doing, and what their goal is. Then the other players around the table create obstacles for them, as well as play out NPCs and setting elements in the scene. Another player could also be playing their own character in someone else's scene, but it's reminded that the spotlight should always be on the active player. Scenes end when the active player feels like they've reached a conclusion. Then everybody rolls dice. Active players start with 2 die of one of the color sets. They can add dice depending on their accomplishments in the scene, as well as if their character has any traits that they think are helping them out. The other players, or the opposition, start with 3 dice of the other color set. They can add die depending on the number of obstacles that the player character has to face, the amount of trouble that the kingdom is in, and the weaknesses of the player character. Both groups then roll their die, with the opposition putting their 3 highest dice up against the active player's die. The active player then plays 2 of their own die. The goal is to have a higher number than the individual dice of the opposition. For example, if the opposition has put up a 5, a 4, and a 2, the active player wants to put up a 6 and a 5, or maybe a 5 and a 3, beating the opposition's 5 and 4, or 4 and 2. There's tables in the gamebook for what these dice mean, with the best outcome being that your character gains a fortune token, or the worst outcome being that the kingdom slides into more trouble and your character gains a misfortune token. These misfortune and fortune tokens decide your character's ultimate fate in the game. After all 3 rounds are completed and you've moved on to the epilogue, players tally up the number of fortune and misfortune tokens that they have. The last token of the last player decides the ultimate fate for your kingdom as well as their character. But you can decide to do the epilogue in any order. So if you want your kingdom to have a good ending or a bad ending, you can decide which player goes last. Questlandia is a really great one-shot game. It's a lot like Fiasco if you've ever played that. It really invites players to get creative with the worlds that they're making, and it lets everybody get their chance in the spotlight. So, if you're interested, Questlandia is available on IPR's website through the link in the description below. Make sure to check out all of our other social media like our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And check out our monthly newsletter. We just send out the one for this month, but they come out every month, and they have all sorts of fun stuff like what's new in stock and what's back in stock at IPR, and Kickstarters or podcasts that we think you guys would like. And remember, gamers, sad endings are not necessarily bad ones. Talk to you next time.